This is a video I've wanted to make for 2 years now, but with the COVID shutdown, I was barely able to do it now. I'm a big fan of Magic Mountain. I'm also a big fan of history. Combine the two, and that's right in my wheelhouse. I've been going to the park for over 20 years. I worked there for 8 years, and I've seen the park change a lot over time. But one cool thing that caught my attention was Google Street View. They don't update this very often, and you can walk around the park as if it was 2011. Today, let's take a look at the park in 2011 and overlay that with the park in 2022 to see how it's changed. Let's take a walk through the park, 11 years apart. Okay, naturally, let's start in the back of the park. This is the part that's changed the most recently, and I gotta say, it's the part that needed it the most. When you enter the back section, you used to be greeted into Cyclone Bay. This was named after Cyclone, the park's 1991 Din wooden coaster. This hasn't even been in the park since 2006, so it makes sense this was finally turned into the underground. The park used to have 3 Johnny Rockets restaurants. Luckily, they're down to 1. This one is now called Snack Tracks. Before it was Johnny Rockets, it used to be called Surfside Grill. If that doesn't sound familiar, you might remember that giant chili dog on top of it, the one that looked like someone puked on it. This arcade building is also completely gone. Same with this basketball game. The elephant in the room here is Deja Vu. You used to be able to walk all the way towards the first drop of Apocalypse. Now you're completely cut off. There is also a slingshot ride back here, but you still have way less access than you used to. This area is open during Fright Fest for a maze, but that's the only time. The rest of this area has been completely overhauled. The path has been painted to look like a road. The buildings and games to the right have been taken out, and most everything to the left has been repurposed. Cold Stone is now Twin Charge Tacos. The Coaster Candy Store is pretty much the same, and Los Cuates is now the Chicken Coop. And those 3 big white towers was Thrill Shot, standing but not operating since 2009. This was finally taken out in 2012. If you never saw it in action, this was very similar to the new slingshot ride they have now. Heading out of Cyclone Bay, you see this giant thing over the footpaths. This was the monorail track. This stopped running in 2001, and it had just been standing there for over 10 years. They finally removed the bulk of it in 2011, not long after these photos were taken. You can see this go right over the long windy path going up to Samurai Summit, and right into the tunnel, which is one of the stations. Now, that tunnel is used by Full Throttle for 2nd and 3rd launches. Going down to Metropolis, then known as the Movie District, you see a freshly renovated Studio 6F, and a very shady and crowded table area by the waterfront restaurant. That's been completely cleared out. This whole area at least was more open also, but then they started building Wonder Woman. We had to say goodbye to this rock wall, and of course the Batman Theater, and the water between that and waterfront. This whole area was overhauled in 2016 and 2017, making way for the new Justice League Dark Ride. This is also when Riddler's Revenge got a new paint job, JB Smokehouse became Ace of Clubs, and of course the Metro was long gone by 2016, but you can still see it here. Also long gone is that random gas station, and Green Lantern of course was just removed in 2019. I also want to point out that even though it was long gone by 2011, you can still see the outline of the old Eduardo's Grill sign on the side of the building. This was my first real job back in 2003, so it was cool to still have it here. Once this became Ace of Clubs, it got painted over. Anyway, the Scrambler and Sandblasters got overhauled in 2018. This was all part of the big addition of Curzanity. The Sandblasters was renamed Jammin' Bumpers, and as you walk down the path, you see the wide open space and basketball game. These are gone now, replaced by our beloved Curzanity. Also, there used to be a metro station right up against this hill. When they put in Curzanity, this was finally taken out, 6 years after the metro was taken down. This was the last station remaining. Heading down to DC Universe, this was rethemed from Gotham City in 2011 when the park added Green Lantern, and now all you see is a giant red wall. Once Wonder Woman opens, this whole area is going to look a whole lot different. It's really going to be exciting to see. Heading down to Colossus County Fair, kind of an offshoot from the main path. This is now the Screampunk District, rethemed in 2015 when Colossus became Twisted Colossus. Now it's all about steampunk. Before, it was just kind of nothing. The Magic Moments Theater is now the Gearworks Theater, and this restaurant has gone through a lot of changes, but in 2011, it was a Ben & Jerry's. This, of course, became Twisted Witches in 2015. Here's the classic Colossus entrance. You can see the entrance point on either side. Today, you can only go to the left, and the right only uses the right station. Heading down to Scream, this is pretty similar. Just notice the old color scheme. Also, you'll notice, down here is one of the exits for Colossus. This was the left side they closed down. Going back up to the main path, this building was converted into the entrance for Lex Luthor Drop of Doom, opening 1 year later. This restaurant was the fresh cut french fries place forever. Then it became a fish and chips, and just recently, it got renamed to Munchies. Passing Goliath and into Bugs Bunny World, you'll notice next to Roadrunners Express, something's missing. That's right, the Tweety cages. But if you go over here next to the Taz jail, there they are, next to this train ride that's no longer there. This whole area is now Speedy Gonzales Hot Rod Racers, added back in 2014. If you look over here, past the kids' carousel, you'll see that towering redwood that was the entrance to Bugs Bunny World. So what's left of that tree? Well, nothing. Just this sign for Bugs Bunny World. Not quite as impressive. This whole area is different. This building was the Logjammer queue. When these photos were taken, the ride was just about closed. Also, some of you may remember the Mooseburger Lodge. This was rethemed to the Full Throttle Sports Bar back in 2013. Let's end this with the most radical transformation over the last 10 years. The front of the park. This whole Logjammer area was full of water, and all that was drained away for Full Throttle. I mentioned there were 3 Johnny Rockets. Well, here was another one. That one was demolished for the Full Throttle Plaza. This arcade was overhauled to make for 3 different places. 2 restaurants and a shop where they used to have freestyle machines, but not anymore. You also used to be able to walk around this arcade and get to one of the 3 metro stations, this one being right by Flashback's entrance. They still open this part of the park up for Fright Fest, but for the most part, this whole area is totally off limits. Right next to that arcade, you may remember the lemonade stand and the WB Kids Theater. This is all pretty much tables now, something they needed for those new restaurants. At the very front of the park, you had this cyber cafe. They converted this from the Plaza Cafe as a place where guests can come and get on the internet. This was introduced right around the time when smartphones became popular, so by 2011 it was pretty useless. This has changed back to the Plaza Cafe. Going up to Revolution, you can see the old classic sign. This was replaced in 2016 when Revolution became the new Revolution, equipped with VR goggles, repainted, and given new trains. And now you can see it's the new, classic Revolution. Headed to the front gates, you pass the Flash Pass building and that looks way nicer now. And at the very front of the park, you can get your funnel cakes and ice cream. Back in 2011, this was Cold Stone and Suzette's Bakery. Now it's some generic brand of ice cream, and the funnel cake shop has gotten a facelift. I didn't go around the back of the park because hardly anything's changed between Revolution and Tatsu. Same with the top of the hill between Ninja and Superman. You still have your bridge to X2. Viper is pretty much the same. You can still walk right under Revolution. By far the shadiest part of the park. The whole area at the top of the hill still has Katie's Kettle, as well as the arcade, all the games, and of course, Tatsu. It looks a little more orange and green now, thanks to a much needed paint job. After you pass Roaring Rapids, there's not much else until you get to the underground. That's where we got started. On top of the hill, the Sky Tower was open back then, and it used to have a museum up there. That's been long closed, along with Laughing Dragon Pizza Company, and nothing's changed with Ninja, and Superman was just repainted and reopened as Escape from Krypton that year. You just don't see Full Throttle off to the side, or right above your head. This area around Superman also used to have a lot more trees. They really took their chainsaws out when Full Throttle went in. The only thing that I found was different was the Panda Express is now a generic Six Flags version of a Chinese restaurant called Chop Six. And I must say, I do love Chop Six. So that's it for my walk through Magic Mountain. I don't know if this stuff is interesting to anyone else, but I find it fascinating. So thanks for taking this trip down memory lane. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like, and let me know if you have any memories of anything that's long gone from this park. Also, check out my links below for my Discord server, and my second channel where I post copyright-free off-road footage, and my baseball channel if you happen to be into baseball also. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.